Welcome back to Married with Gaming.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jen. And today we're going to talk about how we got here.
Yeah, our kind of journey of Dungeons and Dragons. I guess I'll start because...
It started with you, so you should start.
Well, yeah, kind of started with me, but not with me.
Well, you were...
Invent the game,
you found D&D before I did.
Right. And I found it through all kinds of media and dabbling and such. And literally my first exposure was, of course, to the Red Box. That was my first actual playing through it. You know, the solo, the intro adventure, the Bargle, Evil Wizard, Death of Elena that you played through. I mean, that's why, kind of really got me into it. Before that, I'd seen the game, seen the cartoon, seen the toys, all that kind of stuff. But actually playing it was playing that Red Box. Then, because I didn't or wasn't able to afford it, I kind of remembered most of the D&D rules, and I'd used literally books like this, the Fighting Fantasy books, to use their combat system to recreate D&D, so me and my brother, who's younger than me, could play through fantasy adventures. And we kind of hacked through that. But then I ended up getting the Red Box that I showed for Christmas.
Were you in middle school or like?
I was in middle school when I discovered D&D.
Okay.
And it took a while to actually get it. But going into high school, I was into D&D, 9th grade, which was technically middle school where I went. But yeah, and I had a younger brother who was my main player, and then I found more and more friends who would actually play it, and not, so we started getting into it, and of course, it was the usual, make characters named after things in popular fiction or Lord of the Rings and that sort of thing. Played for years. We ended up getting a lot of first edition AD&D books. Most of the AD&D books I got were secondhand, and then second edition was coming up. And when second edition came up, I bought a lot of old modules like on sale at bookstores because they were clearancing them. And I ended up having a summer job, and so right when second edition came out, I had money. And I thought second edition, of course, was the thing. It was what I bought into and got this. And literally I still have bookmarks in here that tell me about non-weapon proficiencies. Literally I have bookmarks in here that tell me about non-weapon proficiencies, where the equipment is. Still that I left in here. I even have a note card in here that tells me some of the errata, because this was day one when it came out. I picked this up. And of course you got to put your name in it, all that fun stuff. And then after that, through the 90s, second edition D&D was pretty much the game. When you met up with people, it was that. And that is literally the game that I got you into and purchased, so.
Actually, you got me both the Player's Handbook and the DMG for Christmas 1991.
Yeah. Well, I try to convert everybody I meet into potential dungeon masters. I mean, that's the thing you do to get people to run games, but usually I've DM'd everything.
And you wrote my name in my books instead of me writing them. You wrote them.
Yeah, because they were a gift. So that pretty much set us on this course with D&D, gaming.
When we were dating, I remember we would just hang out, you, me, your brother, and then one or two other friends that we had. We would just hang out together and game.
Yeah, kind of just throwing together impromptu stuff, yeah.
If we weren't if we weren't playing D&D, we would be playing a board game or something.
Yeah.
So.
And of course, early into the 90s when I do have this that was gifted to me actually by a friend of mine. And this is the whole package. This is everything that was for the white box. Greyhawk, Blackmoor, Eldritch Wizardry, all the books.
Which we will be going through.
Yeah. Which I have gone through and have actually, we messed around and played this version, before in concert with the other versions of it. So he didn't want to have it anymore. He knew I was really into D&D, and he just basically handed it off.
That's nice.
So that was kind of cool. So yeah. And then, of course, it spills in the other version. But with second edition, we got into all the box sets, all the fun stuff. Never got into when they changed it to the black books of second edition. Mm-hmm. You even know what that is? Mm-hmm. No, they had books about powers, and it literally led into what would be third edition, I feel, feats and
and we had kids right away. But every payday, we'd go down to the game store, see what D&D stuff they had, and sometimes buy new, and that's what we just kept playing for a long time.
It was literally the entertainment we chose to have. Mm-hmm. And
well, I mean, not exclusively, but yeah, most consistently. Most consistently, for sure.
So
it was fun. And it's still fun. We still play, so
yeah, and I think for me, as I've jumped from edition to edition, it seems like the older editions really had more of what I think is the core of the game. I mean, I wanted the new editions to kind of carry it forward and be more, but this is just my opinion. Third edition was fine, but after you got into like the mid levels, it just kind of degraded, and the math, was always +1, +1, +1 for all the abilities that you ended up getting. That's what I felt, and I just couldn't connect with it as well. Fourth edition was kind of weird.
No, I've told you before, I don't have a big opinion on the edition. To me, the core of the game is the socialization and the story. So for me, the system doesn't really matter unless it's just bogged down with minutia or really confusing. System doesn't really matter so much to me. So for me, I don't have a preferred. Like, I'm used to 5e now, so that's the one that I go to. But I mean, I was used to AD&D. I was used to 3rd edition. I was used to whatever else. And for me personally, I don't find a big problem with the edition changing and doing whatever, as long as you have a good story, you have good players, you have good characters.
I think also with
it's fine.
I think also with what we played from 3rd edition plus, we've literally stayed with core books. So when people talk about all these other things or bad adventures or blow, it doesn't affect us because we didn't really get into that.
We stay with core books, and usually you, as a DM, are relatively, you give magic and things very sparingly. So the way you
stingy.
run...
Just stingy.
Stingy. So the way you run... Excuse me. The way you run games is more character-based and story-driven anyway. So... and we, house rules, we tend to throw out all the goofiness. So, other than maybe the feel of the setting, changing depending on what actual game we're playing, the system, like, if D&D is D&D to me, it doesn't matter if it's AD&D or 5th edition or 4th edition, it's still D&D because it's still, the setting still feels like D&D.
And I think that helps with players that know the rules and DM that knows the setting and keeps it consistent. Because I don't think I've really kept the same. I've kept my same setting through everything. Mm-hmm. And so when we change up the rule system, it doesn't really change the game. And I think that's the key. And I also don't let rules minutia affect things. And no matter what system, people are role playing. You know, they're playing their characters. So as long as that's first and foremost, that works.
I will say that I do sometimes miss, like the AD&D, like when we first started playing, when I was my character had herbalism, and you had a whole list of herbs, and then I would roll to see what herbs I found if I was herb. I liked that sort of bookkeeping kind of thing. That most people in my experience now have just gotten away from that. They think it's too bogged down. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to see what I was going to find and to keep a note and to know what I could make with these different things or do with these different things. I thought it was fun. But
with that, some of it was made up of things I've read. Some of it was stolen from other games. Secrets Be Told. Played RPG, Arcanum. There's a game called that, and some other games. I literally stole descriptions of herbs and different skills that I incorporated into D&D. And I feel that's literally how this game should be played. You just take what is interesting to players and put it in the game.
Yeah, like the game we're playing now. My character has alchemy. I don't even know why or how. I can't remember. Oh, yeah, I do. It's in her background. But the GM was like, you can have alchemy, and I'm trying not to bog the GM down with my ideas on, how could I make alchemy work in the game? I enjoy that kind of stuff where it's a usable skill in the game, but it has like some components to it that are like a puzzle to me. And I guess because I enjoy puzzles, I think that stuff is fun. So, but I don't mind not having it. I kind of miss that in the old days. I think I had a whole notebook, and I had down as I discovered new herbs and what they could do. I would write them down.
I think that's what really attributes to old school D&D or even other games is the fact that people wanted to be more creative then. Instead of when you have rule for everything, you're looking at the rules to tell you how to play. Instead of looking at what play I want to do and making a rule for it.
Right.
Does that sound? I mean, that's what literally I did. Because when a rule didn't cover it, I would make up something and say, do this, or I'd steal it from another game I read. Where now, if the rule isn't in the book, people are like, I can or cannot do it. It's very binary.
Right.
We go back to the old first edition Dungeon Master's Guide. The Appendix N, all the books that they read and such, use that. That was their inspiration. And I think people need to form their own Appendix N. Not just read history, read your favorite novels, and think of a way to throw that in your game. And don't worry about how other people play. Especially if they're, broadcasting their games and whatnot. Don't worry about it.
You don't have to live up to anybody else's standards. It's your game. You should make it what's fun for you. And if you like to get off track and make puns during your game, then make puns. If you want to be super serious, then be super serious. It's whatever works for your group.
That's the thing is like, I think that was my lesson of not having money and having to not be able to afford D&D and just hacking it from fighting fantasy books and different sources and having read a lot of fairy tales and
you still do that
books.
Like it's still really hard. I know for you go into a bookstore and you're like, ooh, you immediately gamify whatever you pick up. Ooh, how could I use this in a game, or where can I draw inspiration from? So you still do that.
Yeah, because everything is a game book.
Yes, everything is
justifiable purchases.
Yes. And you've read most of them, or at least had a pretty good idea of the content. So, sometimes I can catch on to what you're throwing in games because I know what you've been reading. But sometimes I can't. So
that kind of encapsulates our D&D journey. It doesn't cover all the gaming or games we've ever played, but that kind of, explains how we got together, by playing D&D, and very short version of our journey through the various D&D systems and what we've played.
And, we're still writing our story with D&D because we are still playing D&D. So there's more tales to come and more adventures, hopefully. Both in-game and out.
All right, so outro is game together.
Yeah. See you next time.
Thank you for watching, and please take a moment to like and sub.